Texas players said all the right things about Arch Manning at the NFL Scouting Combine, but I want to focus on what a couple of wide receivers had to say about Arch Manning in particular. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching the #1 college football show, welcome. Thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year-round, and I love to dig into off-season topics, and I love to hear what other players have to say about the guys that are coming after them. Now, caveat that I also gave when I was talking about Julian Sand and Ohio State players is I've yet to see former players have something bad to say about the class behind them if that class was indeed pretty good and they had a great football team. That's the case for Texas, who has made the college football playoff the last 2 years in a row after having never made it previously, and who did it with a 5-star quarterback in Quinn Ewers both years, even while the more talented guy has sat behind him. And that in and of itself should be terrifying because Quinn Ewers was very talented, is very talented. And when he got to Texas, a couple of things happened. He did not ascend into the Heisman conversation, but he also didn't always stay healthy. However, he was good enough to win them football games against everybody but Georgia, right? Beat Alabama, right? In Tuscaloosa. People forget that. I think looking at Arch Manning, though, the thing that was shocking to me was Matthew Golden goes out there and runs 4.3 in the 40, turns around and says, I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback with the wheels that Arch Manning has. Isaiah Bond, same thing. He's like, look, we've seen the art and talent. You see the art and talent. You know the man can spin it. But I was shocked to find out just how fast Arch is because he's not a small guy. He's a big dude running. And I think we all were, frankly. When he came into that game against UTSA and he took off running and it was very clear that nobody was going to catch him, it's like, oh, goodness, man. What if you had Colt McCoy and David Ash playing quarterback for you at the same time, but you had David Ash's feet and you had Colt McCoy's quarterbacking ability? The only other guy to come close to that is Vince Young. And Vince Young was the last quarterback to lead Texas to a national championship, which led me to this logical question. Is Arch Manning going to be the guy to lead Texas to the national championship game? I think that part they can do. As a matter of fact, I think right now, given the roster and given that Steve Sarkisian is taking his time, letting guys rest up, not really putting them through the kind of spring practice that he had even in the year past because, well, it was a long season and they've been to the playoff a couple of times. And knowing that you have it here to take the SEC by storm in 2025, they're going to be really, really freaking good, guys. Like, I can't wait to see Ohio State, Texas to open the year because I think that's perhaps an appetizer for what could be a national championship game, what certainly could be a college football playoff game. And given that Manning is in his element and really we're about to see him at his peak, I think we're only getting started with that. And if Arch Manning is as good as I think he is, we're talking about Deshaun Watson at Clemson. We're talking about a guy that could easily be a 4,000, 1,000-yard guy. We're talking about a Kyler Murray. Remember, we also play more games now, so that's much more in reach. Like, Ashton Jeanty got 14 games to get 2,600 yards. And knowing that Steve Sarkisian is going to get C.J. Baxter back means your running back room is once again going to be loaded. Pete Kwiatkowski and that defense are going to be loaded. You're going to have an opportunity to run the score up and play great defense. Are you going to be able to do what 2019 LSU was able to do or 2020 Alabama? That remains to be seen. I'm not so sure because it's getting tighter in that league. And I know this because Vanderbilt was good last year. Oklahoma was 6-7, but look, they still beat Alabama. LSU was good. A&M was good. The only team that really wasn't that good was Mississippi State, and even they were able to drag Georgia into a fist fight there for a little while. And Auburn, right? Auburn manages to beat Texas A&M. I think that accordion is getting tighter. So running away with the SEC championship, I don't see that. But given what they have and given what, say, LSU has, it's going to be a fight at the top. Like, if Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer can get the quarterback situation sorted, they're going to be in the hunt too. Given what money LSU spent to go build this roster, and they get Harold Perkins back. You got to believe in them. South Carolina is a very good football team. We did not expect that last year. Now, you're going to have to replace Kyle Kennard. You're going to have to replace Rocket Sanders, but you got that, right? You got Rasul Mason. You got Dylan Stewart coming back. You've added Aaron Nolan. You get Nick Harbor the football, and all of a sudden, you've got a great football team. I still think Texas is going to be one of the 4 best teams in the sport over the course of the year, and they have an opportunity to prove that. But for Arch, getting the full Arch experience is going to be what we're here for. Like I plan to do a whole bunch of segments about Arch Manning because I'm really enthusiastic about his play. I really like watching him play football. I wish that he wasn't so good against Oklahoma, but he's probably going to turn up against Oklahoma because that's what you do when you're Texas. Can John Mateer keep pace is going to be a really interesting question to ask because most people believe, myself included, Oklahoma hit on his quarterback. A lot of people comparing John Mateer to Baker Mayfield, which, okay, cool. I get it. He's a better runner than Baker Mayfield was, but I don't know that he's a better passer. He'll have an opportunity to prove that, right? He's going to have weapons. He's going to have Deion Burks on the outside. He's getting Javonte Barnes back. They're going to give themselves opportunities to score. But what Sarkisian has that I think that Oklahoma doesn't is an offensive line that knows how to maul and learn how to play without Kelvin Banks last year because he was hurt. Now you've looked around and you've seen, Ohio State can win a national championship with a makeshift offensive line if everybody else is working and you've got an alien out there on wide receiver. And Ryan Wingo is one such alien. And you've got a tailback or 2 that can run between the tackles. They got 3, right? Jared Gibson, Quintravion Wisener, C.J. Baxter. They're going to have opportunities. He's going to have opportunities. The ways in which Texas could be great are myriad. The only thing that I think is going to get in Texas's way, frankly, is Texas. And last year, they hit on an Ohio State team that was ready. After they beat up on Oregon the way that they did, it was only a matter of time, man. It wasn't as if Texas wasn't in that game for some time. But now, when the offense is built around Arch's abilities, and his abilities are another guy who can run the football, that's one more person that you take out of coverage. That's one more person you got to spy with. I'd be curious to find out what Anthony Hill thinks of Arch Manning, frankly, because I think that's one of the best linebackers in the sport. And that dude would probably have the task of spying a guy like Arch Manning. Does he think he can do it? I think that would be amazing to see. I would really love that. I would also want to see how other teams plan to defend Arch and how much of Sarkisian's I love to run the football might go out the window if he gets these loaded boxes because, well, people just want to contain Arch, but you've got these one-on-ones on the outside. There's lots of good questions, I think, here, but the point for this particular segment is, Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden have seen enough Arch, both as a starter and as a backup, to say he's everything you think he is, and he's only just getting started, and that is terrifying for everybody but Texas.